Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. So today in this video we're going to talk about Apollo 1. So let's go straight into the video. The Russians seemed to be winning the race for space, but US had big plans, two big plans, that would claim the lives of dozens of people. John F. Kennedy gave NASA till the end of this decade to go to the moon. By 1966, NASA upgraded its first multi-stage rocket, the Saturn I, to the Saturn 1B. The top part of the rocket was where several major systems lived, including the Apollo spacecraft, known as the CSM or Command Service Module. The Command Module was a mothership, which would take the astronauts to the moon and safely back on Earth. Inside were three parts, including the sealed crew cabin, which only had 6 cubic meters. With all the instruments, the crew couches, and etc., there was very little room for the astronauts to maneuver. A prototype version of the spacecraft, the Apollo Block 1, CSM, would be the first to embark on a manned mission. NASA set the launch date for February 21st, 1967. The purpose of the flight was to test the launch operations, ground tracking, and control facilities, and the performance of the Saturn 1B rocket. NASA selected 2 veterans and 1 rookie as the crew for the mission that was later dubbed Apollo 1. The command pilot, Gus Grissom, was no stranger to spaceflight. He was one of the original Mercury pilots, and during the splashdown of his first mission, the capsule's hatch opened that almost caused him to drown. The senior pilot, Edie White, was the first American to conduct a spacewalk, and the pilot was Roger Chaffee, who at 31 would be the youngest American to go to space. He was added to the crew as a replacement after the original pilot dislocated his shoulder while training. Chaffee was known as a very nice man who was often teased by the other astronauts. Early on in the training, Grissom and the rest of the crew voiced concerns with the spacecraft, primarily with the amount of flammable material in the cabin. The Apollo spacecraft would use 100% oxygen in the crew cabin, so even a small spark could turn into a flame. Other astronauts report seeing what happened to be frayed wires and short circuits in the cabin of the spacecraft. There were also issues with the hatch having to open inwards and the fact that it did not carry explosive bolts in case of an emergency. NASA and North American Aviation made as many adjustments as possible. At 1 p.m. on January 27th, the Apollo 1 crew was called for a flight test. They entered the module, sealed the hatch, and prepared for what was considered of a sort of dress rehearsal for the actual flight. There were problems from the start. There was a foul odor emanating from the oxygen tank. There was a high oxygen flow. There were also so many communication problems that Grissom said, "How are we gonna get to the moon if we can't talk between 2 or 3 buildings?" At 6:31 p.m., the test conductors were ready to start the countdown. Seconds later, disaster. A flash of fire ripped through the cockpit. The escape procedure took minimum 90 seconds, but the fire only needed 30 seconds to devour the cabin. Despite effort by NASA, ground crews, and controllers, it took them 5 minutes to open the hatch. All these progresses NASA had made was blinded by tragedy.